Today's episode covers the tragic story of Monica Spears Moots, a Venezuelan actress, model, and former Miss Venezuela in 2004. Born on October 1st, 1984 in Maracaibo, Monica had a successful career in telenovelas and later split her time between the United States and her birth country, Venezuela, visiting frequently with her ex-husband, Thomas Henry Berry, and their young daughter, Maya. On January 6, 2014, the day of Epiphany, Monique and Thomas were driving along the Puerto Cabello area in Valencia. They were on a highway after a trip to the Western Andes. Though divorced, they were attempting to reconcile. Their car broke down near El Cambur in the state of Carabobo, and while waiting for roadside assistance, they were approached by a group of armed robbers. Monica and Thomas tried to protect their daughter inside the locked vehicle. The attackers opened fire. Thomas Berry was struck in the chest and died instantly at the scene. His body was taken to the Senamec Valencia, the forensic science office, for examination. Monica Spear was shot in the leg, arm, and chest. She was still alive when police and paramedics arrived, but she died shortly after being transferred to the Central Valencia Hospital. The daughter, Maya, who was 5 years old, also went to that hospital. She was injured with a wound to her leg but survived. She was treated at the same hospital as her mother in a different room. Investigators recovered shell casings, stolen items, and vehicle parts, linking the suspects to the attack. 7 suspects were tied to the crime. The gang, known to target motorists, may have committed additional murders, though evidence was insufficient for further charges. The suspects were Jose Ferreira Herrera, age 18, Jean Carlos Colina, age 19, Nelfred Jimenez Alvarez, age 21, Alejandro Jesus Maldonado Perez, age 21, Franklin Cordero Alvarez, age 28, Leonor Marcano Lugo, age 32, and Eva Armas Mejias, age 39. Most were captured during a raid at a residence in the El Churro area, initially detained at the La Candelaria station in Valencia. They were afterwards taken to court for the first time. Their charges were aggravated homicide and aggravated robbery. They were charged by Attorney General Luisa Ortega Diaz. They all got court-appointed attorneys to represent them. At the Carabobo Palace of Justice, they appeared before Control Judge Yulimar Jaime. This judge remanded the suspects into custody. Jose Ferreira Herrera had a separate hearing with Judge Hilesa Leon Lopez. He too was remanded into custody. 18-year-old Jose Ferreira Herrera went to the Alberto Ravel detention facility in Naguanagua to await trial. The rest went to the Tocuyito prison complex in Carabobo. There were additional suspects, 4 more, who were arrested while smuggling the goods they had stolen from Monica Spears into Ecuador. On their vehicle, they were pulled over and taken into custody. These 4 extras were identified as 20-year-old Freddy Jose, 19-year-old Adolfo Rico, 17-year-old Gerardo Alvarez, and 15-year-old Jaicia Geraldine. They had been tracked down by the national police. They are believed to have been seeking to sell the stolen goods to people in Ecuador, particularly the capital, Quito. However, the Ecuador National Police stopped them. They had been traveling in a Toyota pickup truck that was white. The stolen items were confiscated and used as evidence for trial, as well as that vehicle. The capture occurred in an area known as Canton Perro Carbo. They were taken to the Judicial Police Unit in Guayaquil, where they were briefly detained before being dropped off at the Mariscal Sucre International Airport in Quito, Ecuador. From there, they were flown on an Interpol plane to the Simón Bolívar International Airport in Maiquetía, Venezuela. They were afterwards picked up by the Venezuelan National Police and detained at the La Candelaria station, where they spent the first night. They did not face a judge in Ecuador, as there is a treaty between Ecuador and Venezuela to immediately extradite suspects of crimes among the two lands without needing to have a court hearing to decide and confirm. The following day, they appeared at the Carabobo Palace of Justice. Freddie and Adolfo appeared before Judge Jaime, and the two others before Judge Leon Lopez. They were all remanded into custody to await trial. Attorney General Luis Ortega Diaz charged them with three offenses: accessory, receiving stolen goods, and criminal association. They too got public defenders to represent them. All of the defendants pleaded not guilty and chose to go to trial. They pleaded not guilty before Judge Carlos Bonilla. In 2015, the first trial was held. 6 suspects went to trial at the Carabobo Circuit Court, which was presided over by Judge Bonilla. The first trial was for Jean Carlos Colina and Eva Armas Mejias. In this case, Eva and Carlos were both found guilty on all charges. Eva was sentenced to 10 years in prison, and Colina to 20 years in prison. Next to go to trial this year was Nelfred Alvarez, Alejandro Maldonado, Franklin Cordero, and Leonard Marcano. They were also fully convicted. Jimenez got 20 years in prison. Alejandro, Franklin, and Leonard got a prison term of 30 to 35 years. In 2016, another suspect went on trial. Jose Ferreira Herrera. Judge Carlos Chirino found him guilty on all charges as well. He then delivered a sentence of 24 to 26 years in prison. So regarding the 4 extra suspects captured in Ecuador, Adolfo and Freddy were detained at the Rodeo 2 prison complex in Caracas, the capital of Venezuela. The other 2 at the Carabobo Juvenile Detention Center. In 2015, while awaiting trial, Adolfo was stabbed to death in his cell. The stabbers were identified as his cellmates. They were both brothers. They were named Jimenez and Jose. Their last names were Gregorio Ferreira. I may cover this story later on. But anyways, these 2 brothers were locked up for gang-related offenses. The other 3 smugglers went to trial in 2016. Their trial started in May. Judge Bonilla found Jesus guilty on all charges, and Judge Chirinos found the remaining 2 defendants guilty on all charges. The 3 received prison sentences of 4 years. There were 11 suspects total in this murder investigation. 1 was killed in prison, and the 10 others were convicted. Those 10 appealed their cases. However, the Carabobo Appeals Court by 2018 had rejected all of the matters. So now let's discuss their statuses. Eva and Leonard remain in the Tocuyito prison to serve their sentences. The others were moved to the Rodeo 2 prison in Caracas. However, Franklin was moved to the main one in the city, known simply as El Rodeo. The remaining 4 were taken and booked into their final stop, the El Dorado prison in the state of Bolívar. One of them, Jose, died of tuberculosis in 2020 while incarcerated there. Freddy remained at the Rodeo 2 prison. Gerardo and JC remained at their Carabobo detention center. In 2019, Freddy and JC and Gerardo were released. In 2024, Eva was released. The rest continue serving their sentences at their designated facilities. The deaths of Monica Spear, Thomas Berry, and the injury of Maya shook Venezuela and drew attention to rising crime, rising murders, government corruption, and systemic violence. Many protested against the government of disgraced leader Nicolas Maduro, who is known as the dictator of Venezuela. I wish the U.S. military this year the best of luck in combating this corrupt government and ending the pain they have been causing to their residents. It is not fair for them. And hopefully, the Venezuelan community could be more educated and escape the brainwashing they have received in the many years prior. Their story is a reminder of personal tragedy, justice, and the ongoing fight against crime in the region. Thank you so much for listening. May the people rest in peace. And have a good rest of your day. Stay safe.